Many of our greatest minds have struggled with the idea that if there is no God, life has no meaning.
One of the bleakest reactions was that of Graham Greene. Greene was, of course, to become one of the great Catholic writers of the 20th century. But as a young man, he was agnostic. He was also reckless and extremely bored. He carried what he called his war against boredom to a shocking and dangerous extreme.
Greene lived to the ripe old age of 86, but statistically he shouldn't have made it past 19.
I remember very clearly the afternoon I found the revolver in the brown deal corner cupboard in a bedroom which I shared with my elder brother. It was the early autumn of 1923. I slipped the revolver into my pocket, and the next I remember was crossing the Berkhamsted Common towards Ashridge Beeches.
Greene had been reading a book about soldiers during the Russian Civil War. Away from the front line, they invented hazardous games to avoid boredom.
This was not suicide, whatever a coroner's jury might have said. It was a gamble, with 5 chances to 1 against an inquest. I slipped a bullet into a chamber, and, holding the revolver behind my back, spun the chambers round. I put the muzzle of the revolver into my right ear. There was a minute click, and looking down I could see that the charge had moved into the firing position. I was out by 1.
Graham Greene lived by chance. He had absolutely no control over the outcome when he pulled the trigger. What Greene did was utterly crazy. No matter how bored I was, I would never trust my life to chance in such a way. But the reality is that we have less control over our lives than we might like to think.
When a tornado struck Joplin, Missouri in May 2011, death and destruction were indiscriminate. The young Graham Greene would have embraced the truth of that tornado. Joplin's fate hung on chance, just like his game of Russian roulette. While 7,000 buildings were blown away, others survived unscathed.
There is tremendous survivor's guilt in the community. That I hadn't experienced before.
Survivor's guilt meaning, why did I survive?
Why did I
when
survive
somebody
and
else
someone else
died?
died?
Yes.
Why did that little child die? I'm 70 years of age. Why didn't you take me, God? Why should that mother lose that child?
But do you think he could have stopped the tornado?
Of course he could stop. He could stop anything he wants.
So why didn't he?
Because we don't understand. It's a mystery.
It's a mystery.
He is a mystery, and I can't intellectually explain that. And if someone tries to do that, they're going to come to a dead end and say it makes no sense.
It's almost moving the way religious people struggle, twist and turn to find some excuse for this, some sort of meaning, some part of God's plan. If it was part of anybody's plan, what an unthinkably awful plan it would have to be.
But even if you're an atheist, the idea of living or dying by chance alone is hard to accept. Atheists may think they've given up God, but it's only human to cling to the idea that things happen for a reason.
If you look at misfortune and fortune in human life, in the universe generally, there is no pattern. There's no pattern as relates to people. The pattern is entirely related to physics. The universe has exactly the properties we'd expect if there was no plan, no design, no aim, just blind, indifferent forces of nature.
If, like Graham Greene, you understand life as a game of chance, and if you believe there is no God pulling your strings, making plans for you, why not just play the game, the great gambling game of life? I'm often told that my vision of a godless future is just as devoid of meaning as Las Vegas. that without God all you're left with is materialism and mindless slot machines. But I've come here because I think Las Vegas reveals something fascinating. Humanity's deep-seated belief that we can prevail over chance.
People come here filled with hope. Everybody knows that the casinos have a terrific markup percentage for the hearts, and yet they still go on feeding that hope and feeding the slot machines and losing their money.
Hey, Richard. How's it going?
Hey.
Hey, you winning?
No, I lost every time.
Oh, my God. Well, now your luck's going to change, because I know physics.
Okay.
He may look like a card sharp, but the gentleman in the shades is actually a physicist. Leonard Mlodinow is fascinated by how human beings are incapable of understanding chance.
32.
I won and I lost.
When people are playing these games we see around us, am I right that many of them, even if there's absolutely no bias, say, between red and black, there are many people who will say, oh, well, it's been red, 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 red for such a long time, it's black's turn.
That's right. That's right. That's called a gambler's fallacy.
The gambler's fallacy.
People, well, if you flip a coin a zillion times, you're going to get about half a zillion heads and half a zillion tails. So people, the way their thinking goes, I think, if they bother to logically think about it, is that, okay, I've seen 10 tails in a row. So if it's going to be half heads and half tails, the heads better catch up.
Yeah.
That's not the way it works.
Okay.
You could throw it a zillion times and get all heads.
The point about our brain is that it insists on seeing order, meaning and pattern, even when there is none. It's a very human characteristic to fool ourselves that we are in control.
In today's world, it seems that we make more mistakes seeing patterns that aren't there rather than missing patterns that are there. In fact, there's a really great experiment on that. They put a rat in front of a red light and a green light, and the red light and green light flash without any pattern at random, but the green light flashes 75% of the time, and the red light flashes 25% of the time. And the rat, if it guesses correctly which is going to flash, it gets a little sugar water. So when they let the rats do this, they see after a while that the green light is flashing more than the red light, and they just start guessing green, 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 green every time. And they get it right 75% of the time, and they're happy with that.
Which is sensible. That's what we should do.
Yeah. But people, we think we know better, right? So when they put humans in front of such an experiment, most people won't do what the rat does. Most people, they've seen that it's 75% green, and they'll guess a pattern. They'll go green, green, red, green, 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 red. They'll start spewing out these red and greens in some weird pattern that's tailored to be 75% green and 25% red, thinking that they can, beat the system, just like the people here in the casino think they can do. And when you do that, you end up about, I think, 60% of the time you get it right instead of 75%.
Precisely.
And so the humans are outperformed by a rat.
Yes.
And that's because we see patterns where there aren't any. And that's just the way our minds work.
Too clever by how? Too clever by 3/4 in this case.
Perhaps this is part of the explanation why religion evolved in the first place. It satisfied our desperate desire to find meaning and order in the chaos. In playing the ultimate game of chance, Russian roulette, the young Graham Greene grasped what so many of us fail to. There is no pattern. We have no control.
Ooh, we came so close.
Greene took his chances and pulled the trigger on another 5 occasions before the effect of what he called his adrenaline drug wore off. What Greene did may seem crazy, but there is a grim logic to it. Seize the reins, dance with death. You're going to die anyway. Happily for Greene, he beat the odds. More and more of us now do not believe in God or life after death. We live and then we die, and that's it. We are born by chance, and our lives are shaped by chance events.
I know this is a difficult pill to swallow for many people, especially those for whom religion still has a hold over their lives. Many people have struggled to come to terms with the reality of a purely physical universe. So, how do we find meaning?
So, if we are finally shaking off the influence of God, how nowadays do we find meaning? I'm going to talk to an outspoken satirist of modern life.
That's that. No.
Yes.
That's that. Religion is that. No.
We've seen that there isn't a simple, single answer to the meaning of life in a world without God. Meaning is something we need to carve out for ourselves.
We have to find our own meaning from the opportunities and challenges that life throws our way, even if that does mean defying convention sometimes. I'm going to meet a man who's definitely defined his own way and made a huge success of it, but he has ruffled quite a few feathers in doing so.
Thanks to everyone in the room for being good sports. Thanks to NBC. Thanks to Hollywood Foreign Press. Thank you for watching at home. And thank you to God for making me an atheist. When I signed off the Golden Globes by saying, and thank God for making me an atheist. Now clearly that was a play on words. It was a little bit of a redressing the balance to everyone who thanks God for winning an award. I've never seen so much outrage as thanking God for making me an atheist. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if God exists, he did make me an atheist, didn't he? Didn't he? Why did he do that?
I read about that. It was astonishing. I mean, it really did cause outrage, did it?
You usually have to murder and eat someone to get that much publicity in America.
How funny.
Yeah.
How very funny.
Yeah. You know,
When did you first realize that you didn't believe in God?
my next brother, Bob, when I was about 8, he was 11 years older than me, so he was about 19, and I was drawing a picture of Jesus for, you know, Bible studies, and he came in and he looked at it and he went, "Why do you believe in God?" And my mum went, "Bob." And I knew from body language. Why didn't she even want the question? She was hiding something from me. And I thought about it, and it all made sense. Then I started reading, and I've been an atheist for 40 years.
So why does a 21st century British atheist get up in the morning?
I think you have to have worth. I think you have to feel in yourself you have worth. Friends, family, a loving relationship, just because we're human, and that's how we're built. And for me personally, something creative. It doesn't have to be painting the Sistine Chapel. It can be gardening. But I think you have to do something and enjoy it and fill your free time and stand back and look and go, I did that. You know, these are all reasons to stay around for as long as you can.
I would agree with all that, and I think I would add understanding as well.
Religious believers tell me they're puzzled that non-believers like Ricky Gervais and me can find any meaning or purpose in a godless existence. But for me, the world teems with meaning. It's up to each of us to give our own lives meaning through our work, our relationships and passions. And I think through one other thing, understanding who we are and trying to understand why we're here. That has been the mission of Western science, the most important tool I believe mankind has ever invented.
For centuries, human eyes could see clearly no further than a few miles. Telescopes enabled our eyes to leap outwards and see distant stars millions of miles away. Even better than that, a telescope is a kind of time machine. Because it takes light so long to reach us from a distant star, when you look at a distant star, you're looking backwards in time, maybe hundreds of millions of years. And if you look at a distant galaxy, you may be looking at the origin of the universe itself. You're looking at the very beginning of space and time, the Big Bang.
Humanity's gaze has also turned towards inner space. Microscopes have unlocked our understanding of the cells that make up all living things and revealed the world of the smallest and simplest organisms around us and in us. The new science of genetics has unexpectedly completely revolutionized and unified our understanding of life on Earth. Meanwhile, physics has discovered particles smaller by far even than the atom. And at laboratories like CERN, scientists studying the collisions of these particles are on the cusp of understanding how the universe got started in the first place. The poet John Keats voiced what many people fear about science: that in explaining the world it makes it less amazing, less extraordinary, somehow banal.
Philosophy will clip an angel's wings, conquer all mysteries by rule and line, empty the haunted air and nomad mine, unweave a rainbow.
Keats could not have been more wrong. Isaac Newton's unweaving of the rainbow led directly to a massive deepening and widening of our understanding of the universe. It led to James Clerk Maxwell's theory of electromagnetism, and from there to Einstein's special theory of relativity. If you think the rainbow has poetic mystery, you should try relativity.
Science does the opposite of making things banal. It's about unleashing curiosity and uncovering more mysteries to solve. We take so much for granted, we become anesthetized by our familiarity with what's around us. Science shakes off the anesthetic, and we look again with new and clearer eyes.